Hey everyone, Eric Meehan here. It is my third installment of this video series. I'm going to break away from the biodynamic thing for a bit, and I just wanted to talk really quickly about a question that came up in my store, Bangor Wine and Cheese, the other day. And it concerns rosés, right? Like it's still, I'm sitting here in the sun. I mean, it's quite warm. So, by the way, I drink rosé all year round. Anybody who doesn't know me, I drink rosé all the time. I love it. But the question kind of came up of, what are the grapes that go into rosé? And the person was assuming that there are specific grapes that are rosé grapes. And so I just kind of wanted to clarify some things. First of all, yes, there are rosés that are, there are no rosé grapes. All right, we'll start there. There are grapes that are made into rosé, but there's no like specific rosé grapes. We'll start there. Second of all, there are certainly rosés that are made from a blending of a red wine and a white wine. But the most popular form of rosé, and the most typical one that we tend to sell as wine merchants, is something called the saignée, or the bleeding method, right? Just because everything comes from the French. Saignée is the French word to bleed, right? So essentially what you do is you take red grapes. So by and large, just so everybody understands this, most of the grapes in the world that are red on the outside, when you squeeze them, their juice runs clear. There's always asterisks. There are asterisks, but there are very few of those asterisks. Most of the grapes, bleed white, as it were, or bleed clear, I suppose that should be, So when you take the red grape and you crush it and you immediately drain the juice, you're ending up with a white. That's how we come up with, again, French terms, the blanc de noir, right? The white from black, essentially, but the white wine from red grapes. But what happens is the pigment from the grapes is stored in the skins, right? So you're gonna leave to make a red wine, to start there, to make a red wine, you're gonna leave this clear juice in contact with the skins for a long time, days, and then it's going to take on a red hue and become a red wine. And it's also going to take on different things like tannin and other things that are going to come from however you choose to vinify the wine. But if you want to make a rosé from the bleeding method, what you do is you crush everything with the skins intact and you bleed the wine after a couple of hours, after it's started to take on some of that hue. And depending on what you want your rosé to be, it might be more time and more contact with the skins, and not only, again, the skins, but things that will give it the skins will give it tannin as well, but there's certain elements that will give it more weight or less weight depending on what you want to do. But usually minimum 4 hours, 8 hours, 14 hours, etc. will give you different rosé wines. But the rosé wines from this saignée method are really what you will see in the majority of shops and the majority of wines, even some champagnes that are rosé, whereas a lot of the rosé champagnes are actually blends of those white and reds that I mentioned earlier. But that's sort of a primer. There are no rosé grapes, but there are grapes that you will make into a rosé. And then we'll touch on orange wines later, which is kind of the white version of that, the fact that white grapes aren't necessarily white, and if you leave them in contact with skins, they'll take on an orangish hue. But again, that's for another time. But I hope this helped you guys understand rosé a little bit more. And by the way, drink rosé all the time, all year, not all the time, but all year round. Rosé is a fantastic match to so many foods. I can't say enough about it.